brighter tomorrow by allowing participation between Africans in diaspora and Africans back home. We Africans in diaspora are ready to return home, but the question on people's mind is that at what cost? Well, we're ready to come back home to implement our exposure, our academical power. We're ready to implement all our achievements into the system. So I think we should encourage interconnectivity between we Africans in diaspora and Africans back home so that we can lift up Africa. Now, we have so many people, why do they want to come back home? They complain about lack of electricity, they complain about lack of infrastructure, lack of good health services, and so many reasons. We do know that we've got beautiful natural resources in Africa, but this is the time to allow that sustainability, and we should try as much as possible to explore our resources. Come on, let's work together and help Africa. Africans in diaspora are ready to return home, but we should be allowed to work together to improve. Now, why do we complain? We complain because we're not there, because when we left our country for a reason. Why do we move? We migrated overseas, we want greener pastures, but now we want to make use of our exposure, we want to make use of our environment. So give us a chance to do that. We Africans in diaspora are we're ready to come back home. So please, let us be progressivists and let us stop procrastinating. Let us work together and help Africa. So on Tinoshow, I've got beautiful guests with me today, and this guest with me, we'll be talking about Africa and improvement. We'll be talking about the best way to encourage we Africans in diaspora to come back home and implement our exposure. Hello and welcome to Tinoshow. I'm Tinu Odinoga. This talk show focuses on tomorrow's brighter Africa. This is where we Africans in diaspora work together with Africans back home to uplift the system. Now, I've got wonderful guests with me today. We'll be talking about the importance of improving Africa. From my far end, I've got Engineer John Rowland. You're welcome to Tinoshow. And next to Mr. Rowland is the publisher of Trumpet newspaper, Mr. Femi Okutubo. You're welcome to Tinoshow.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Now, when we say Africa and improvement, how do you think we can improve Africa? Do you think allowing that participation between we Africans in diaspora and back home is a good step forward? Would you say that?
Yeah, definitely it's a step in the right direction because Nigeria or Africa itself is a very vast country and it needs all resources, both at home and abroad, to be able to move the country forward.
That's good. Maybe Engineer Rowland?
Absolutely, I do agree with Mr. Okutuwa. I think what is important is that those of us in the diaspora, as we put it, should begin to recognize that it is time for us to go back home and make ourselves available and apply the things that we have learned whilst abroad. I think that will be the beginning of this improvement and working together, this relationship between ourselves in the diaspora and them in Nigeria or in Africa.
And Mr. Okutubo, do you think going back home would be something you think of yourself, considering both of you, I'm sure we all have been here for over 20 years and there's so many other people that's been here that long, so do you think one day you would like to go back there?
In fact, it's not a case of actually thinking about it. I'm already working my way back towards going back to Africa. And even when I look at Africa, I'm not just talking in terms of Nigeria alone, but even a few other countries within the continent itself. There's no doubt about it that there's no place as sweet as home. And when you really look at Africa, Africa is the place to be in the next few years. The attention of the world right now is on Africa itself, and one should not be found wanting, even in terms of contributing one's own quota towards developing Africa.
That's good. Engineer Rowland?
Absolutely. I am sold to the idea of going back home. I'm very passionate about it, and I'm beginning to talk to people about going back home. Frankly speaking, it is absolutely important. If we keep talking about improving that continent and we remain outside of the continent, I think it's just talk. And we need to put,
procrastination.
Yes, we need to put some action where our mouth is,
That's good. My guest, Mr. Okutubo and Engineer Roland, so many of my, colleagues and friends and the people I've interviewed over the years, I've always been saying the same thing. They talk about more of the negation happening there, the negative side of things, rather than just focusing on our natural resources that can be explored and sustained. They don't talk about that much. All they say is just, lack of electricity. We're used to that, aren't we? We're used to 24 hours electricity. They talk about the bad roads, they complain about so many things, the poor health service and so many things, So what can we do? What can we do? How can we encourage people like that to come back home and implement their achievements?
So I think the starting point would be to recognize that if there are multinational companies who are leaving the Western world, going into Nigeria to go and set up, and they're doing that on a daily basis, all you also need to do is also look at the flights that are going into Nigeria, Lagos, Abuja, and you see a lot of foreigners on those, and Port Harcourt as well. If you see the amount of foreigners that are actually on those trips, it must tell you that there's something really, really happening in there. Again, the other thing to recognize as well is that even if the Chinese, even if the British, the Americans are saying that in spite of the odds of that country, in spite of kidnappings in Port Harcourt or in the Niger Delta area, they're still going back in there. It must tell you that there is something that people are really looking up to. Again, if you look at Africa today, if you look at even a case, for example, like Nigeria, where if you compare that to the Western world where there's, an economic crunch or a credit crunch, and you compare that to Nigeria where, in fact, the banks are actually looking for people, they're looking for projects to invest their money in, you'll see that they're actually there are two different ends of the world. So definitely, there is something in there, and Nigeria, Africa is getting better. And I think we all need to be part of even improving it.
Thank you very much. Engineer Rowan,
I do agree absolutely with that. If you see the amount of money that's been invested in that country now, in the city, they tend to call us emergent markets. And they are putting a lot of money. That does tend to suggest that there's something in that country and in the continent that is worth investing in and worth paying serious attention to. Now, I think what should happen, in light of what you said before about people having these negative thoughts about the continent, I think there's a group of us, I tend to believe that we're a progressive group who are beginning to have intelligent discussions about the things that are on ground in that country. Now, I do go to Nigeria quite a lot. I'm involved in some consultancy projects that are out there right now. And when I come back, I do like to talk to people about this new prosperity in our country and in the continent. And I'm telling them now that there's a niche for everybody. There's something for everybody to do. And if we leave this country for who? For the foreigners to come and develop? Do they have the same vested interest that we, as the owners of the country and the continent, do have? So now we are beginning to have these discussions. In my last trip to Nigeria, I was having these meetings with people, and this kind of negative stuff that we talk about was tending to come up. And what struck, because I was talking to the permanent secretary of the ministry in Lagos State, what struck him was a statement that I made. I said, I have come to be a part of the solutions to the problems that we talk about abroad. And if I cannot provide a solution, I would rather not be involved.
Interesting.
In the stuff that they wanted me to do, And I told him that my driving passion was not money. It would be nice to make money in any endeavor that you're engaged in, but my driving passion was to be a part of a solution.
Which we all are. We're part of the solution. That's good. For your relaxation, comfort, good security, 24 hours electricity, good customer service, exclusive cuisine, Africa and intercontinental dishes, jacuzzi, bar, nightclub, places to hire for meetings and conference hall. Come to Gordon Hotel. And for your extra limousine service at a reasonable cost, come to Gordon Hotel. Hello, Hello, Mr. Jacobs. How are you?
So how are you, my dear?
I'm fine. You knew something
This is the place to be.
165 Sapele Road, Benin City, Edo State, Nigeria.